Well, good afternoon, everybody. We have got another project in here that we got to tackle. So, one of my customers called up, and it's a walking beam suspension out of some kind of a heavy-duty equipment trailer. I have never seen the whole thing. They said it's built in the 60s. At any rate, I'll show you one of these pins in a minute. So, it had these pins in there. With some kind of a bearing on each end of it. They said that whole mechanism is completely destroyed, no saving it. So what they want me to do, and that through the walking beam part of the beam, there's of course a big boss in there that was the bearing, I don't know what you call it. It held some kind, I believe they were ball bearings, if I'm understanding it right. But at any rate, they want to eliminate all of that. It's totally shot, bearings fell apart, been that way a long time. And they want to weld a boss in that just runs directly on the pin. Now this has got a little bit of a shoulder here and here, slightly larger diameter there. It looks to me like it started off right at 2 inches and then it's relieved in the middle. Now the original plan was get a hunk of 4.5 inch OD by 1 3/4 ID heavy wall and then just bore it to fit this. They said they didn't care what the outside dimension was. They'd make it fit whatever stock I could get a hold of. Went down to get it, ordered the piece, went to pick it up, and they told me they were wrong. They didn't have what I wanted in stock. All they had was what is nominally 2-inch bore. Well, I measured it. It's measuring 1.965 or thereabouts. And unfortunately, we were originally going to just turn this pin straight through, get rid of a little bit of a shoulder there, and just whatever it cleaned up, that's what that was going to be. Well, that's smaller than what that starts off on its rough dimensions. So change of plans now, because on short notice we cannot get the piece of stock that we want, is I'm actually going to build this up and turn it. So it's kind of a pain in the butt. It's adding a whole step to this process. So we're going to have to build up, actually further beyond what these shoulders originally even were, because we want more bearing surface in that. So I'm probably going to come in, about 4 inches from each end, build this up, and then return it. Now, before I do that, though, I want to get these bosses bored because the center hole is quite irregular. I want to make sure it's actually going to clean up at a good fit for a 2-inch pin before I go to modifying the pins. If this is a no-go, well then we're going to find a different solution. So anyways, long and short of it is, I'm going to take this thing, I don't know how familiar you all are with this type of heavy wall, but the ID is rarely concentric with the OD, and on this it's wobbling around pretty good. Because I have so little material to clean up, what I actually want to do is grab it from the inside, put a large live center in the other end, and actually skim cut the entire outside until it cleans up, and then go to grabbing the outside to bore it down the middle. The reason for that is simply because I don't trust this thing. I don't want to put it, I probably won't clean up. If I just true it up based off the outside, I'll end up with interior wall that won't clean up. So the middle inside's what we really care about. They said anything above 4 inches on the OD is good for what they're doing. So we're going to see what it cleans up at and then probably just try to hit some nominal number. So that's what we're up to. I'm going to get set up now. Alright, so we did not have a way to grab the inside of that. Chuck jaws were too big, so I took a small 3-jaw that I had in the back room, grabbed it in the big chuck, grabbing that on the inside, and then this is one of those interchangeable nose live centers in there, and we're just skimming these up and making them round. Ready? So I've got both of these roughed out. So the point of what I was doing there is that this kind of heavy wall is, like I say, frequently the center hole runs very out of true to the outside diameter. And because I have so little material in here left to clean up, like I'm trying to clean up at 2 inches, this hole isn't perfectly round. In the wide direction right now, it's measuring 1.965. So I've only got 35 thousandths. So what is that, 17.5 thousandths on a side to clean up, and that's pretty risky, I'm not going to lie. Like, there may be a little skim here and there that doesn't clean up. Depending on how true that bore is from one end to the other. So the point of it was, I wanted to true the outside up to the inside so that I knew I had my best chance at cleaning up. And when I went to set up and grab it, I wanted to grab it on the inside here with a 3-jaw, and then on the other end, I've got this bullnose live center kit that was my dad's. It's got interchangeable centers, and then that let me go in the bore on the other end. But the problem was none of my chucks had small enough jaws, so I went and dug around in my storage room, and an old friend of my dad's was here, and he reminded me of this trick. I have done it before, but it didn't occur to me till he mentioned it. Went and grabbed this and snagged it in my 3-jaw, my main 3-jaw chuck. So grabbed a chuck in a chuck, and then grabbed that bar from the inside is what I was doing. And it came out really nice. And now what I've done is grabbed this in here, gradually tightened it up and thumped it around, and I've got less than a thousandths TIR out here on this end. Now what I'm going to do is we actually are only after about 4 inches, give or take, 3-4 inches worth of bearing surface area, and we actually want to relieve the center. So boring 11 1/4 inches deep with a boring bar the size you'd have to be to get in a 2-inch hole is just a non-starter. Like it would be a nightmare. Chatter, harmonics. So what we're doing is I've got my boring bar sticking out 6 inches, which will let me reach just past center. So we're going to go ahead, bore this thing to our finished dimension, and then back up, pull it out about 10 thou on the side, and we're going to relieve the center, cut it 20 thou over. So we'll be cutting just past center. Take it out, flip it around, get trued back up on the other end, and then do the same thing from the other way. Now, you might end up with some slight misalignment from end to end. I grant you that, but it won't be much. And you have to have clearance. This is a slip fit. It's going to be a greased pin and bushing combination. So if there's some slight misalignment between the ends, it's really not going to be of any significant importance. So that's what we're up to now. I just got this trued up and grabbed, got this ready. I got to get a new corner on my tool up, and then we're going to start boring. Almost to the bottom of this first cut. Then we'll do some measuring and see where we're at. Oh, I'm taking a little bit of a detour here. This is where the oil sight gauge on the apron on the carriage goes. I've got done prying out. It was so clouded up, it was about impossible to see the oil level. And I have been waiting until the oil level dropped enough. This pumps oil out of here onto the ways. So anyway, I just noticed that it looked like it had finally dropped below the level of the window. So anyway, I busted out of there. I got a new one, and I'm going to put some Loctite on this and smack it into the hole and finally be able to actually see my oil level properly again. So anyway, just happened to notice it while I was running. I thought, hey, I better check the oil level. And when I realized it was below that, I thought, this is the moment. So busted the, was it actually a plastic lens of some kind. Did I say that? No, it was glass one, I guess. Anyway, busted it out of there and pried the sucker out of the hole. It's in there, and then I promptly overfilled it. It's right to the top of the gauge. It doesn't hold that terrible much, but at any rate, it's real purpose. If you overfill it, it just tends to leak oil. I forget where. It throws it out around the clutch handles or something, if I remember right. But at any rate, it's in there, it's working, and I can actually at a glance tell if I got oil now. So I've got one more that I need to put in here, but we'll get to that one another day. All right, well, the bore just past the halfway point is done. I'm just skimming off the end here, getting it squared up. deburring stuff, and then it's time to flip this thing around and bore in from the other way. Well, we are back to this project today. So I just thought I'd go over the details of what we got to do here. So I've got two of these pins. I think I mentioned the original had some kind of a bearing here, some kind of bearing there. That's all long gone. So the plan here is we're just going to a pin on bushing setup. Problem is this has been relieved all the way across the center. And because I couldn't get the size stock I wanted, we were originally going to just turn the shoulders off, this little bit of whatever you want to call that, shoulder, take it to the same diameter. Now what we got to do is weld these up. I actually need to weld it up past the original surface because we want more contact. So that's one issue. But the other is this thing is supported by going through a hole in the frame here and, let's see here, I believe a hole in the frame here. That stuff is all hammered worn undersized drastically. Like this is missing almost 50 thousandths. So what we're going to do is we're going to weld up that face, and that face, and return all of them. But I got to be careful what order I do this in to maintain some semblance of accuracy. So what I'm setting up in the lathe to do right now is this center turn section is the only unworn part of this. So I'm going to grab that in the lathe, come up here and put a center in this end right now before I do anything else. Then the plan is to go over and weld up this face, flip it around, grab it there, and turn that while I can still get a hold of this. Well, no, I take that back. All I actually want to do, nix that, getting out of sequence, is I want to come in and face this face off here so that I've got a good square shoulder. Then we'll come back, weld up these surfaces. The reason I'm not doing that at the same time is because I'm going to be getting over into this section here that I want to grab right now. So the reason for grabbing that is so that when I get done with all of this welding, then I can come up and grab this hex in my 3-jaw, get on this center with my live center on the other end, and then turn all three of these surfaces, and they'll all be concentric to each other. And that's the only part that, I don't know, it needs to be super accurate, but those are the only surfaces that reference to each other. Like, we really don't care if we're dead centered on this original section. It's just we want those three to all be in the same plane. So at any rate, that's what we're setting up to do now. roughing the second one out right now. This one here is done. You can see I got a few little dimples in the corners, or kind of expected that, but I didn't feel like pouring enough weld on it to get a square corner. Makes no difference functionally. So anyway, this pin is completely done. 4 inches bearing contact on each side, relieved in the middle. Basically matches what those got going on in them. 4 inches of contact here and here, relief in the middle. The only reason I went ahead and cleaned up the middle is just because it looks ugly with weld spatter and stuff on it, where it was relieved before. Anyway, we're about to have this one wrapped up. Well guys, this project is done. 2 sleeves, fully machined. Every face on those ended up machined, and then these pins, darn near fully machined. I welded up 4 inches there, 4 inches there, that collar, and then remachined all of those surfaces. Basically, the only parts of those that aren't touched is the threads on this end and the hex on that end. But anyways, we are going to drop these all off to the customer in the morning. This is actually going to a customer down by Hartford, which is where the scrapyard I own is at, and I need to make a trip down there and just see how things look around there once. So anyhow, long and short of it is, it's done. I'm sure some of you are going to ask, like, why the heck didn't you just make pins from scratch? It really just comes down to getting the material and getting it turned around. I have 7.5 hours into doing everything that I've done here. So, honestly, as crazy as all this seems, there's no way that I could have made these and welded, machined those in 7.5 hours making these from scratch. And by the time I set up single point thread these, put the hex on the other end, it would have been more than that. And at the end of the day, it's all about how fast can we get it turned around and how can we do it cheapest. So, well, this might look a little ugly. Like you can probably see here where it didn't get a sharp corner because, weld was flowing off the edge a little radius, but doesn't matter functionally for what this thing does. And this will get them back up and running with a good fix the fastest possible for the most reasonable price. So, anyways, that's about it. This will be a wrap, and we'll catch you guys next time.